Okay, Tom, this one from Ask Reddit is a pretty beefy topic. I think there's a lot to be said here. So I'm going to read the whole thing here, and then we'll have a chance to dive into some of this. But the title of the Reddit thread is "The Truth About B2B Marketing." All right, so get ready for this. I've been meaning to post this for a while. There are loads of posts on this forum about marketing. A substantial number of these are based on consumer marketing and some B2B. There's an impression out there that if you do Twitter, you do content marketing and do email marketing, that somehow your customers will magically come to you. However, in my experience, this does not happen in the B2B space. Even though companies who do brilliant content marketing, they will hit the radar of their target market, but many of these B2B prospects will still not contact you. The reality is the only way to reach these prospects is actually picking up the phone, calling them, and having a live conversation with them. This is what gets the needle moving in B2B markets. The real role of marketers, this kills me right here. The real role of marketers in the B2B space is just to create awareness and pave the way for a conversation. And yes, inbound is nice, but marketing efforts of B2B marketers must be compelling enough so that prospects will actually take a call from one of your representatives. This is the essence of good B2B marketing, and B2B marketers and their managers need to realize the real magic happens when a good marketing operation is aligned with a good sales operation. Won't disagree with that. But using marketing alone without an outbound sales motion is like riding a bicycle with a flat tire up a steep hill. I can't wait to get to this one. It will have you some of the way, but the effort required to get to the top will be monumental. Having your marketing efforts backed with a good salesperson is like getting air into the flat tire. All of a sudden, the bike gets you further and quicker with much less effort. I don't know, Tom. Sounds like a salesperson wrote this one. What do you
That's
think?
exactly what I was thinking. Like Steve, VP of Sales, wrote this.
Yeah,
If
it's
only
got to be.
marketing would make it easier for me to call people.
Got to be. Let's dive into this, Tom. I'm curious your thoughts. Curious your thoughts about the relationship between inbound, outbound, and sales marketing alignment.
I mean, marketing is hard. Sales is hard. Everybody wants their job to be easier, and everybody thinks that the other team should do a better job. Like, how many? Take the flip side. Marketers hand so many leads over to the sales department, but they just can't close them. Like, I'm doing my job. So I think I can understand how they think that the salesperson's the hero in this relationship, and if people aren't ready to talk when I call them, then marketing hasn't done their job.
Yeah, I get like, hey, marketing helps get them warmed up for that sales call, but I think where the miss here is they're expecting this sales call to happen before there's any real high intent action taken. They think that just because like awareness is created, they're aware of who your company is and generally what you do, that all of a sudden they're just going to be sitting around waiting for that magical sales call to come and save them from whatever pain they're experiencing right now. And the problem I have with that is like, if they were that bought in, they would take that high intent action. They wouldn't be waiting for you, to make that phone call. The other problem I have with that is like, man, the only way to scale an organization like that, like whoever this guy works with, the only way to scale an organization like that is by adding headcount. You can only create more pipeline and more opportunities and more sales by adding more salespeople. And over time, that creates a very difficult operation to scale efficiently and sustainably. So that's I appreciate I appreciate the comment about marketing and sales alignment, but I think understanding where that trade-off needs to exist and having some metrics around how you're going to profitably grow are important factors that kind of were amiss on this post.
I think what's missing here is like there seems to be a gap between what marketing hands off and what sales picks up. Like, where are they getting these people to call from? Is it just cold lists? Because then that's completely outside of what marketing's doing. Or if they're warmer because marketing has reached them, like how would you approach that? Like finding that middle spot of getting good quality leads for even outbound?
Yeah, to be honest, like I'm a I'll qualify with this. You know, different industries have different requirements in terms of like how you go to market, how you take that message out. And so, in some markets, it maybe the only way to get out to market is by salespeople picking up the phone. However, generally from the hundreds of companies that I've consulted or worked with, I've seen this commonality of like you really don't need salespeople just like dialing for dollars. Really, that's really how I got into marketing. Was I was a salesperson, early salesperson at a freshly minted Series A company. The private equity firm comes in and says, "We want you to give this list a call." And so I'm pounding the phone day in and day out, making 100 phone calls to get one meeting, 100 meetings to get one sale. I'm like, man, 1,000, 10,000 phone calls to get a sale, like terrible numbers. Like this is a complete waste. There's got to be a better way. And in that time, like the demand generation formula that I've created that's led us here to Edge Marketing, that's helping so many different companies efficiently grow, is a process that for just a most recent company has increased their sales in a 2 year span 255% over that 2 year span, while actually decreasing their sales team by 20% and producing a CAC payback period. So the amount that it took to pay for that marketing lead to come in, it's paying you back in less than 9 months. And that's the type of efficiency that's needed to grow quickly, but also sustainably, so that you're not running out of money and causing problems on your operations teams.
I know this guy had, or I presume a guy. I know this redditor had talked a little bit about strong marketing and sales alignment. Talk. I mean, you've been on both sides of that. Talk a little bit more about how those should be working together.
Yeah, I've had some great sales leaders that I've worked with and collaborated with, and the relationship starts with a true like SLA of like, hey, this is the ideal customer profile and qualification criteria that an opportunity needs to meet before I pass it over to the sales team. And so if those qualification criteria are unknown, we're working on the marketing front to develop those contacts through data enrichment or whatever means might need to happen to get that information. If they don't meet that criteria, we don't pass them on to the sales team. And so in that way, they're getting the highest quality deals that are converting from stage one to closed one at 25, 22 to 25%. And in that way, they're not wasting their time on deals that are never going to close. They're focused on the most, salespeople are one of the most expensive resources in the company. So you're putting your most expensive resource on your highest value opportunities. And so having that SLA of like, here's what we're going to pass over to you. Here's the rate that we expect these to close. Having that good SLA and that relationship is important. But from there, really creating a tight feedback loop where you're evaluating those deals with the sales leader that you pass over from marketing to say like, here's the profile of the ones that just aren't good opportunities, so that you're always refining what your good opportunities are and where you're out to market to get. And so in that way, you're listening, you're iterating, and it's a collaborative effort, not a siloed effort of marketing's over here creating this and then sales go do what you've got to do. That's where I've seen the best relationships formed.
You talked a little bit about demand gen. What Where does that fit within the customer journey? If we're talking about from like awareness through uh, sales conversation.
Yeah, demand generation is really like before you even know that the individual is looking for you. So it's how you're putting information out into the market to educate the buyer or to educate the market. It's how you're leveraging content and other platforms to position yourself and establish trust in your company, and then ultimately being ready to help the buyer when they're ready to take action. But it even extends beyond that. It extends into like, how are we thinking about how we speed up sales cycles? How are we thinking about creating pieces of content that assist the buyer even when they're in the sales journey, and for that matter, even understanding from our customer success or our delivery teams, like what are the customers they like to work with, and how do we find more of those?
Yeah. I think they are often forgotten, the customer success teams. Sales closes them, and customer success hopes for the best.
Yeah, everybody has people they like to work with. Marketing, we're like, all right, here, if we had our way, here's everybody that is interested. But salespeople have those deals that they know are unqualified, or they don't have good product fit, or they're just more difficult to work with. And so that funnel from marketing to sales gets a little bit skinnier. And then when you get to CS, it's like, man, who are the people who are just like draining our support resources? They're always on the phone with support. They can never figure anything out, but they didn't do everything they're supposed to do at implementation. And so, understanding that is just as important as anything of like who's going to be a good customer, and have a good relationship with our company as we deliver on our product promise.
All right. So inbound versus outbound. Does outbound have a role?
For me, I've in my approach, I've tried to scale out outbound over time. I've centered more on providing the value that helps guide people through the buying process. One thing to note is like, generally like 5% of the market is thrown around as being in a buying process. What people forget is of that other 95%, 85% are actively engaged in research. And so, making a phone call isn't necessarily, interrupting someone's day isn't necessarily going to be the way that you get them. But being present at the right time, understanding high intent signals, getting information in there to help guide them through the process is where I prefer to play. Because just as I've been on the sales front and making those phone calls, I've also been on the receiving end, and nothing is more damaging to your brand than if you call me when I've just sat down to dinner for the night.
Yeah. I think it kind of comes down to, again, just matching the value for the value. So the highest value employees working with the highest potential value clients.
Yeah, no doubt.
Cool. So answered. Unless you have anything else to add on that one.
Yeah, there's a couple of things there. I think when I'm gonna unstamp your answered question here. I think we I assumed that this was a sales leader just because of the way that it was talked about. Like salespeople are it, but what's more concerning is if this is a marketing leader, because there are certain industries or certain functions within a business that start to get looked at as like a cost center, not a revenue producer, but a cost center. And so when marketing is looked at as just creating awareness that's untrackable, and then we just like kind of warm up the ocean for the salespeople to go fish in, that's a dangerous spot for a marketing team to be in too, when there's no direct line to revenue. You're not heavily engaged in creating pipeline that turns into revenue and helps the company achieve their business outcomes, business objectives. And so when times are tough, that's why a lot of times you see marketing departments being the first ones to be slashed, is because like, well, we can outsource this, or like, we'll just make more phone calls on the sales team, or whatever, the case may be. And so if this is a marketer that, doesn't understand the through line to revenue, it's a dangerous place to be.
Yeah. And I guess this whole idea is also pretty industry specific. We're probably coming at this from like a SaaS lens, but maybe in more like real world or real product scenarios where relationships need to be built, I could see maybe it having a bit more of a function.
Yeah, there's, generally in B2B SaaS, I'm also an advocate to not attend in-person events, because you can use that budget elsewhere. But even within that, there's certain industries within B2B SaaS where that makes sense. For instance, if you're in manufacturing or trucking transportation, a lot of those relationships are built in person, and certainly that could translate into certain industries out, B2B, that aren't necessarily software. But it's that's why it's important to understand your customer profile and how they like to be approached.
Yeah. All right. Can we stamp it answered now?
All
We
right,
have,
go for it.
all right. Answered.